Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to This Week in Your Daily Star Trek News. Today is Sunday, May 29th, 2022. Coming up on the show today, it's almost time for the Orville Season 3. There's a new comic series that's coming, bridging the gap between Star Trek Picard Seasons 2 and 3. Karl Urban keeps the rumor mill going around Star Trek 4, and Denise Crosby is reminiscing about her time producing a documentary film Trekkies, which is in its 25th anniversary year. My name is Alison Pitt, and today's show is going to be my last show as the host of Daily Star Trek News. I will tell you more about that later, but I do want to let you know that the show must go on. The team will be continuing Daily Star Trek News, and they will be doing that with support from people like you through Patreon. So head to patreon.com/Daily Star Trek News and find out how you can support us and everything we do from just $1 a month. All right, now before we get going, I do just want to remind you that everything I talk about today on the show is available over at dailystartreknews.com. We've got links to all of the original stories, more pictures, more videos, and we've got some special articles as well talking about Star Trek trivia, Star Trek history, and of course, our weekly events listing. That's also the place you can go to sign up for the Daily Star Trek newsletter. That's at dailystartreknews.com/contact. All right, so this is normally the time when I tell you about this week's poll. And this week's poll is all about the Orville. So the Orville is starting up this week, June 2nd. That's a Thursday. Keep in mind, by the way, little side note, that it's not launching like at midnight like the Star Trek shows do. It's actually launching, I think, in the evening. So check your local listings for when that's hitting where you are on Hulu.com. Anyway, yes. So today's poll is: will you be tuning in to the Orville this week? Your options are: heck yeah, no. What's the Orville? For those of you who don't know what it is, and I don't have Hulu. It's already been pointed out to me at least once on Twitter, thank you, Christoph, that Hulu is not available outside of the US, and neither will be the Orville, probably. I'm hoping that what could happen is what they have sometimes done with other Fox shows, is that they get licensed individually to places like Sky and other international carriers, but we'll see. I don't know about the international release of the Orville yet, so we'll try to bring you more news on that as we know about it. But anyway, please let me know. Are you going to be tuning into the Orville this week? Do you like the Orville? I don't know. So yeah, that is the poll for this week. Let's go ahead and get into the news. And so yeah, the Orville is starting this week. I just wanted to make sure that I drew your attention to my conversation that I had with the Orville co-producer Tom Costantino last week. I think I published that on Thursday. Go and check it out. We had a nice 20-minute or so conversation all about the Orville Season 3, what's coming up, how it's different from previous seasons, and also kind of how they got through the pandemic. Because if you've been watching this show, if you've been reading our website, you'll know that the Orville has not had exactly a smooth ride. They got interrupted in the middle of filming Season 3, and everything got put on pause. And so it's kind of yeah, it's kind of an impressive little story. So it's a good conversation. It's not too long. Please go and watch it. It's here on the YouTube channel, and I will link it down below. And of course, if you're listening to the podcast, if you're listening to this show on the podcast, there'll be a link in the show notes for you to go and watch that. Yeah, and that's a reminder. It comes out on Thursday on Hulu exclusively. Now, going back to actual Star Trek stuff, of course, Strange New Worlds is on at the moment. And if you have been noticing, their costumes are pretty remarkable. So a lot of people have been talking about how their costumes are very reminiscent of the old TOS costumes. And that is, number one, deliberate. And number two, the credit goes to Bernadette Croft. Now, Bernadette Croft is a costume designer who worked on a couple of seasons of Star Trek Discovery with Gersha Phillips. And she is credited with kind of bringing these costumes to life. She had a conversation that was published on inverse.com earlier this week that talks about the process behind that, and also some of the more iconic looks. One thing that she did say about coming up with all the looks for Strange New Worlds, This is what she said. We needed a retro-futuristic look combined with design elements from shows like Discovery, and it was a bit of a design challenge to link them up. Now, if you've been watching Strange New Worlds, you will also notice that they have the scant/mini skirt kind of thing going on, and even like the male members of the crew are also wearing it. And part of that credit goes to Rebecca Romaine, who insisted that you can do stuff in a dress. So they designed kind of a mini dress version of the uniform that could be worn with pants or leggings. They talk about that. Croft talks a little bit more about that in her interview with Inverse.com. They also will talk about the landing party jackets. And if you've seen The Ghost of Illyria, you'll know what I'm talking about, because afterwards, almost everybody was talking about their awesome landing party jacket. It was reminiscent to the discussion around the landing party jackets in Star Trek Beyond. If you know, you know. Anyway, it's a great interview with Bernadette Croft, the costume designer for Strange New Worlds. That's over at Inverse.com. Go check it out. Right. Moving on to the series that is no longer on our screens, but we have to wait for a little while, Star Trek Picard. I think most of you are probably aware now, Picard Season 2 was, big and bold. And we know that coming up in Season 3, we're going to have the return of all of the Star Trek TNG main cast of characters. It's going to be a big deal. But how do we get from Season 2 to Season 3? Well, IDW is going to help us find that out. Now, a couple of weeks ago on this show, I talked to you about the Countdown comics and how they kind of lead you into Star Trek Picard. IDW is now doing a series called Star Trek Picard's Stargazer, which is going to bridge that roughly a year's gap between seasons 2 and 3 of Star Trek Picard. And it's a 3-part limited series all about Picard's adventures as the new leader on the Stargazer, well, the new Stargazer. Here's the brief synopsis of what that series is going to be about. Embark on a never-before-seen journey set between seasons 2 and 3 of the Paramount Plus hit series Star Trek Picard. After a tantalizing offer to return among the stars arises, Captain Jean-Luc Picard takes to the bridge of the USS Stargazer. But when trouble rears its head on a once peaceful pre-warp planet from his past, Picard enlists the help of an old friend. Sounds very interesting. Picard showrunner Terry Matalas confirmed that there's about a year's difference in between, and that's where the Stargazer comic will take place. And this series is coming with some pretty big names behind it. So if you're at all into the comics, you will know what I'm talking about. The series is written by Kirsten Beyer and Mike Johnson. They, in addition to previous comics, and of course novels, they also wrote the audio drama No Man's Land with Michelle Hurd and Jerry Ryan. Story art for the series is done by Angel Hernandez, who you will also know from other comics as well. So that's very exciting. That's going to come out starting in August of this year. Theoretically, it doesn't always work that way in the comics world, but we should expect that towards the end of this year if you're missing your Star Trek Picard fix. All right, so moving now from the television series over to the movie side, and this is like a really funny, like non-story story, but we like to keep things ticking over. So Star Trek 4 is coming. Star Trek Arabic numeral 4, not to be confused with the one with the whales. It's due out in theaters in December of 2023, which I don't know if you've looked at a calendar lately, is like 18 months away. So at Star Trek Day earlier this year, J.J. Abrams got up on stage and said, yeah, we're totally doing Star Trek 4. It's the Kelvin Timeline cast. They're all back on board, and we're going to start filming towards the end of this year. And we've slowly been trickling through various interviews with various cast members going, yeah, I've heard that too. So the latest one comes from Karl Urban. Comicbook.com reported this week. And yeah, basically what he's said is, yeah, it's theoretically happening. Apparently there's a script. and I'm on board theoretically. What he said was, all I know is they're developing it, they're writing a script, and I know 100% that we all want to come back and do it. He described it as just a matter of logistics and timing at this point, which to me is translated as a big I am the shrug emoji. Things like this have a tendency to actually just, hurry up and happen. So I personally don't think there's any danger to still seeing something in December of 2023. But it is almost comical how all of the stars seem to know nothing about it beyond, we think it's happening. So anyway, yeah, more on that at comicbook.com. Yeah. Right. And finally today, I'm pausing because okay, so hands up, who has seen the documentary Trekkies? I have. It's of people that I know that have watched Trekkies, it's kind of in a mixed bag. I actually think it's a really good documentary. Some people don't like the way it portrays Star Trek fans, but regardless, it's still out there. And in fact, it's this year is its 25th anniversary, and Shout Factory have actually released a Blu-ray of Trekkies, which is available now on Amazon. I believe you can also stream it on Amazon Prime Video. I'm not sure whether it's the better resolution or not. Anyway, Denise Crosby, who produced that with Roger Nygard, who was the director, sat down with TrekMovie.com this week to talk about the film and why it's still relevant. So here's what she said about the film, and I found this particularly interesting. And it's actually encouraging me to go back and watch it. She said, when we initially made the film 25 years ago, these doors were just opening up. So to fandom in general. There wasn't an onslaught of DC and Marvel movies. Comic-Cons weren't as huge as they are now. We hit it when things were starting to open up and change. So I think it's a great piece of representation for the beginnings of what we kind of take for granted right now. And that kind of that reflection really hit home for me because I don't know. So I live in Southern California, not far from the Anaheim Convention Center, where Star Wars Celebration is happening right now, and it's all over, various news channels that I follow, and things we take for granted now. Comic-Cons, niche Comic-Cons, cosplay, fan films, fan fiction. These are all things that in our internet age now we take for granted, but they very much weren't back in the day. Part of that's, the growth of internet and social media and so forth. But when you have a look at Star Trek fandom like Trekkies did in the late 90s, it becomes a really interesting kind of looking back at the origins of where we kind of are now. Anyway, she says also about conventions nowadays, she loves the generational sharing. My favorite thing is always hearing from young women that are now adults who are watching the character I played and a light bulb went off in their heads. These things are possible for me. I can be a strong individual and succeed as a woman. So yeah, to read that entire interview with Denise Crosby, head over to trekmovie.com. And of course, if you are interested in watching Trekkies, if you either haven't seen it or you want to see the upscaled version, that's available on Blu-ray now from amazon.com and other places, I'm sure. Right, so that is it for the big news this week. Just before I get into the show and tell results, I do want to talk about me and my role. Let's talk about me for a second. So I told you at the top of the show, this is going to be my last show as a host of Daily Star Trek News. It's also going to be my last sort of week as managing editor of Daily Star Trek News. But I wanted to kind of give you an introduction of where we are heading because it's not stopping. The website and the newsletter are going to be continuing without me, and we are exploring other ways that we can keep the show and the podcast going too. More news on that to come at some point in the future. The team going forward will be led by our very own T. Rick Jones, whose name you are undoubtedly familiar with. T does the history and trivia segments on the website, but behind the scenes, you probably didn't know, he's been sort of my right-hand man in terms of publishing and keeping the show going for a few months now. So T is going to be taking over from Monday. He's really excited for the job. I think he's in the chat, actually, if you guys are here in the chat. And you guys are in really good hands because the team is not changing. You're going to get still all the really great, wonderful content, and they are going to go bigger and bolder than we ever have before. So yeah, that's kind of all for me. I really hope that you guys will all continue to support the whole team going forward as much as you've supported me. You are in good hands, and we will continue to bring you all the Star Trek news you need to know wherever you are. Anyway, that's my spiel. All right, so just a reminder, there is a poll running. If you are here in the YouTube live chat, please press the little buttons wherever they are. And if you're listening to this back later or you missed the live show, head over to twitter.com. The poll is running there overnight tonight as well. And I want to know, are you going to be tuning into the Orville this week? That's the big thing. Right. Okay, so I do have show and tell today, and I kind of love this one. So, with me leaving, I thought, let's raise a glass. I'm not really going to do that because it's 2:00 in the afternoon where I am, but I do want to show you this guy. There we go. So, at this point, you guys are probably familiar with Star Trek wines. They produce a range of Star Trek officially licensed theme beverages. There's some white wines and some red wines and a blue wine too. The Andorian one is kind of cool. Not Andorian. I can't remember what the blue one is. Anyway, this one in particular, and probably I need to drink it already because this one was given to us by my good friend, John Champion of Missionog. He brought this for, I want to say, Christmas one year. And it was a very welcome gift. And as with many special bottles of wine, this is the UFP Old Vine Zinfandel Special Reserve. For those of you listening who can't see it, yeah, I've been saving this for a special occasion, and I haven't figured out what the special occasion is yet. So maybe it'll get cracked open later tonight. We'll see. Anyway, you can see their whole range at StarTrekWines.com. I think this is merely one. So, right, once again, that's the UFP Special Reserve. They also have some really fascinating bottles that are, really unique and one of a kind, as much for collectors as for drinkers. So, yeah, there's that. And thank you to John for that. Because that was a really lovely gift. Anyway, right, so that is show and tell. Let's go and check in on the poll. The show seems short today, guys. That happens sometimes. Right, okay. Heading over to Twitter for the poll, and this week's poll is, will you be tuning in to the Orville this week? Currently in the lead with 72.7% of the vote is heck yeah. And in third place is actually tied with no, and I don't have Hulu. So the good news is everybody's heard of the Orville. Most people are tuning in, but it looks like there's actually a few people who can't go. So I know, Christoph, I've already mentioned you. I genuinely hope that we find a way to get you that because the Orville is fantastic. Right, okay, I'm going to kill the poll here in the YouTube chat too. All right. Oh, it's a little closer, actually. Interesting. So here in the YouTube chat, 52% of the vote says, heck yeah, they're watching the Orville. 34% says, I don't have Hulu, which is probably, I know that a few people are watching this from outside of the United States. No is 13%, and nobody says what's the Orville, so that's great. I'm curious, for those of you who have said that you're not going to watch the Orville, I'm curious why. So, sorry, this sounds like, why aren't you watching it? It's not like that. I'm just curious whether it's something because you tried watching it and you didn't feel like it just didn't speak to you, or whether it's just, not something that you're interested in or whatever. It's not everybody's cup of tea, especially because I found that with Star Trek fans, there's a lot of Star Trek fans who really are more prefer the more serious side of Star Trek, and there are some like me, like I really like the parts of Star Trek that I like are like the really weird parts and the funny parts. So from that perspective, the Orville works really well for me. So we'll see. Yeah. Okay. Right, guys, that is the end of the show for today. That's it. That is it for this week in Daily Star Trek News. Thank you so much for listening, not just for today, but all of the other days. This has been a very long journey for me, and I genuinely appreciate lending me your ears. Anyway, remember, please, that you can find all of this week's stories, including the ones that I've covered on the show and lots more, over at dailystartreknews.com. That's going to be your home for all of the Star Trek news you need to know going forward. That's also the place that you can sign up for the Daily Star Trek newsletter at dailystartreknews.com/contact. All of our stories will come to your inbox every weekday. You don't have to do anything. It's very, very easy. Yeah, and like I said, all of that will continue. You know what? I'm gonna have to send out an update today because I forgot to say we are not publishing Monday and Tuesday of this week because the team is taking a well-needed Memorial Day holiday. So yes, look out for the Daily Star Trek newsletter starting on Wednesday of this week. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, genuinely. This show is produced by me, Alison Pitt, and it's written by Chris Peterson, Marina Kravchuk, Jack Brown, T. Rick Jones, and David Powell. Today's show and all of the other ones and everything going forward is supported from people like you through Patreon. So please head over to patreon.com/Daily Star Trek News and find out more about how you can support what we're doing from just $1 a month. Right. I will not be back next week with the Star Trek news, but I do hope to see you all around the galaxy sometime soon. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just not going to be here. I'm Alison Pitt. Live long and prosper. Oh, and stick around if you're in the chat. I forgot to say that. Stick around. The show is done. We'll stick around and do this stuff. Hi, everybody. Excuse me while I have some coffee. Thank you for being here today. Sorry for dropping a little bit of a bomb, but I feel it's better to not drag things out too much. Seriously, though, I'm very, very excited to see where Daily Star Trek News goes from here on out. Some of you may have been in this position before, but sometimes, you get to a place where I am very excited to see what T and the team are going to do with everything here. You've got some really great talent here, and I'm just really excited. So anyway, yeah. Is T still in the chat? I saw him earlier. There he is. Good. All right, I'm gonna scroll back in the chat and see if I've got some questions to answer. Hi, Just Rosie 5. Christoph says, thanks for all your shows. All the best. Hopefully we'll meet someday, maybe at some con in England. Yes, that would be great, but not this year. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh at people's misfortunes. The big news, of course, which we haven't covered yet, but Destination Star Trek has announced that this year they will not be holding a convention in London. It's going to be Germany only. To provide you guys some context around this, because I know some people are really upset over this. Um, I kind of laugh because that's the way it was for years, years and years. They used to hop between Germany and London. So the first time that I went to Destination Star Trek London was in 2014, and they didn't do it every year. They did it in 2014, and then they did it again in 2016, and then they kept doing it in London after that, basically riding off the wave of the 50th anniversary. And the same thing has happened. The same thing happened in Las Vegas too. So usually that con was a 3-day con in Vegas. In 2016, in time for the 50th anniversary, they upped it to a 5-day like mega event thing, right? I actually expected it to go back down to 3 days after the 50th, and it never did. It just stayed at 5 days. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of fun, but towards the end, and of course, they no longer have the official license. But more recently, like 5 days of a con is a lot to fill in with exclusive Star Trek content. Anyway, that's beside the point. My point being is, I'm sorry for the British fans who were looking forward to there being a con this year, but this is actually just going back to the way it was um, before. I was going to say, just hop on over to Germany, but of course it's a little harder now after Brexit. So I don't know. Anyway, condolences to those fans who are planning on doing the Star Trek convention in London this year. It will not be in London. Yeah. Anyway, also, that does leave the field open for somebody else to do a convention. Now, I'm not that familiar with Comic Cons in the UK. I know that there's going to be a special. I wish I don't have it in front of me. We'll try to write it up this week. Probably there's a comic convention this summer. I want to say in July, and they are doing a special Star Trek focused content. I don't know if it's like the whole week or whether it's just one day, to try and make up for some of that. But also, if I look back to 2019 when I started doing this show, a lot of the stuff that we did in the events listing were actually local or smaller Comic Cons. They were not officially licensed. They were not these big hoo-has. And not being funny, they still get celebrities. They still get great panels. They still get great vendors. Without Destination Star Trek being in the UK, it's possible that somebody else could step in and fulfill that role. So look out for that. Or you know what? Put one on. That's how Star Trek conventions started back in the day. Anyway, yeah, so we'll see. Yeah, listen, okay. We'll go into a little bit of like my opinion on things because it's my last show. So don't wait for big companies to give you the kind of fandom that you want. They never did it in the 70s when the Star Trek convention started, and they never did it in the 2000s when there was nothing. Don't wait for Paramount. Don't wait for the big conventions. If you want to get together with your friends and celebrate your fandom the way you want to do it, get together and do it. That's really the way that you keep things going, and that's the way that you make genuine connections with other people. Don't wait for the big corporations. But whatever. Let's talk about the Orville for a second. So Anne says, and I'm assuming this is in response to me saying, why didn't you watch the Orville? She said, because I'm not really interested to. I've never watched it, and I don't, as of now, really care to. I would say, personally, for me, I love the Orville. I think that in an era when we didn't have good episodic, heartfelt, like really coming from the heart Star Trek, the Orville absolutely filled that gap. There are some really classic, excellent episodes of the Orville, which I think I ranted about last week. If you already have a Hulu subscription, then you have no excuse not to check it out. If you don't yet, maybe pick up a trial and try a few episodes. I would say that the first couple of episodes are a little rough around the edges, but they really go hard really early. About a Girl is really good. Uh, I did this last week. I'm so sorry. Um, the storytelling is really excellent, and if you are a production nerd like I am, I find it really interesting because the the Orville. I'm trying not to like offend the people that make the Orville. The Orville looks like it was put together. There's no way to do it without offending people. Discovery and Strange New Worlds and Picard, really slick, you know, they're really slick and really cinematic, and they feel to me at times um unattainable, like too far away. The thing I always liked about TOS and TNG, less so the more CGI you got, was that it felt tangible. Like it felt like you could be there, you know? The Orville feels like that to me, where Strange New Worlds is wonderful, but it is very like it's way over there. That's like way too far away for me. And the Orville feels more present. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's just the way it feels to me as somebody who watches it. I would encourage you to give it a go if it's within your means to do so. Yeah. Sorry, I'm doing that thing where I scroll backwards. Christoph says, "Isn't there a DSTN anniversary coming up, or is it just behind us?" Yeah, it's just behind us. So the 23rd of April was I want to say 23rd of April was the first published episode of Daily Star Trek News, although it didn't go live on 23rd of April 2019. It didn't go live until May, I think, on places like Apple Podcasts. If it even was Apple Podcasts, you know, because it used to be called something else. It was iTunes before. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, it was just 3 years ago. Um, okay, all right. I've hit the part of the chat, you guys, where you guys are talking about me, which makes me feel awkward. But I do want to address a couple of things. So Robert says Alison has been the person of DSTN so far, the one face, which is true. Yeah, but for a long time now, it has not been me behind the scenes. I've been the person that you see, but I'm not the person that makes it all go. Um, it really is a team effort behind the scenes. You guys don't get to see all of the discussions and content planning and everything that goes on behind the scenes. Really, you're really just going to be missing my face. The team is all there, um, and we're first going to concentrate on keeping everything rolling over. And like I said, we're discussing how we can still enhance some of the things like our YouTube channel, because it's still there, it's still available. So we'll see. Um, and yeah, like I said, you're in really, really good hands. Um, and I will still, you can still find me on, I'm still going to be active on Twitter because I already am. So whatever. All right. Um, okay. I think I'm going to leave it there for now. I can't possibly reply to everybody that's in the chat, but I do just want to say again, thank you very much for everything and all of your guys' support over the years. You guys are in really good hands, and hopefully I'll be seeing you around. Come and say hi elsewhere, and yeah. T in the chat. There are lots of us Paglets making DSTN go. Yes. I like it. I don't want to talk. You guys are better than. Well, I was going to say you guys are better than Pakleds, but that's kind of. I don't know. Are Pakleds villains? Do we consider them villains? I don't know. I don't want to say anything bad about them because they're just kind of like incompetent Borg. Anyway, thank you all again. It's been a wonderful 3 years, and yeah, I really do mean it when I say live long and prosper. And please, please listen, go out and do something. This is, the Star Trek fandom is wonderful, and it generates a ton of debate about how we as people can be better and live up to infinite diversity and infinite combinations, and how we can work together to get to a post-scarcity economy and all of those wonderful things. Please make sure that you're not just talking about it with people on the internet. Go and do something. Help help a progressive politician get elected. Go and volunteer at with a homeless organization in your area, or just, volunteer at your school, help teach children that there's a better way to live than bigotry and violence. So please just do something. That was all I will say. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody. I will see you on the flip side. Bye.